Good morning and welcome to the new media show. My name is Todd Cochran. I'm glad to be with you. Of course, I've got my co-host joining me as well, Mr. Rob Greenlee. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Todd. It's great. It's been a couple weeks.
Yeah, I was off in Washington D.C. land, and luckily my travel plans have changed, and I'm not heading back there tonight. So I'm going to be here for the next week. So
Oh, that's yep. I'm staying put for a while too. I'm not going anywhere.
yeah, I might be heading out the following week, but at least I get a few days to recover. But had a pretty good week here, getting caught up, and lots. I mean, there's a lot of stuff happening in the podcasting space. I think we've got enough stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to start off with?
Well,
International Podcast Day, or
yeah, we can kind of talk about what happened over there.
okay? Yeah. Both of us did a couple of. Well, I did one hour, and Todd, it sounded like you did a couple of hours over there yesterday.
Yeah, I
And
did a closeout hour, which was kind of them the Steve and um, Daniel J. Lewis and myself just kind of reminiscing on the event, and but I did a full hour presentation at 8 p.m. Pacific last night.
yeah, I just did a conversation with Francesco, the CEO of Spreaker, and Rob's Sesternino, and a fellow by the name of Ken Rakowski, who's very early, like he started doing online audio shows back in '95. So he's all into radio though, and he's not a honestly he's been kind of passively in favor of the name podcasting since it started, but there's no there's nothing new about that. Todd, and most of the old timers know that when that name was given to the medium, there wasn't very many people that were real happy about it at the time.
Right.
So if you talk to somebody back from that time frame, that's typically what they'll tell you is that they weren't all that gung ho about the name from the beginning. They felt like they were forced and inherited it, and I think we've just all you and I have just accepted the fact that that's just what it's called, and frankly that there's no other name that that's any better.
That's
So
right.
just have to move on.
And it's kind of surprising people are still hung up on that.
Well, I think it's very much looking into the past, right? It's not a perspective of what's ahead of us necessarily, because I think it's so entrenched in the culture, it's in the dictionary, it's just not going anywhere. And I didn't want to make this show all about the name podcast
Right.
because I think we're past that. But it's interesting because it came up on the stream, and I thought it was a little bit, you know, it was kind of probably not appropriate to be talking about that on that stream. But anyway, it came up.
The I was in my session I talked well the title of it basically I redid well I reworked my podcast movement presentation and I really wanted to make it educational where we talked about what podcasters are not doing to engage their audience,
Yeah.
that they could be doing to engage. Yeah, they're always, podcasts are always saying, I don't get no emails from my, no one's contacting me and telling me what they think about my show. Well, did you give out your email address during your podcast? And did you,
Yeah.
is it accessible on your website? Well, no, I don't want them to spam me. And,
It's,
so it's, was that kind of
yeah.
not that basic, but, um, I had 67 slides I went through in about 32 minutes. So it was bam,
That's a
bam,
lot of
bam, bam.
slides. That's a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
was.
slides for 30 minutes.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was, but it was, there were like percentages, slides
Oh,
with the
okay.
percentage on. There wasn't, yeah, not too much text.
Yeah.
So it worked. The only thing that was a little clunky is Steve had to, I had to keep saying next slide, which was the only thing that was a little clunky. But they used that website Fire Talk, and you and I had used that for one show while I was on travel.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
so I was over there testing. I basically was using my video rig here and
Hmm.
going into my Mac Pro and I was, get everything, and I had one screen that wasn't quite looking sized right, so I was messing with that, and all of a sudden my stream shut down, and I'm like, what's going on? And couldn't get it to start. It says you've exceeded your minutes for the day, and I'd only been on for 10 minutes. They made a policy change on the 28th that Fire Talk now, and they don't have a way to. I guess if you're a preferred partner, you get all the time you want. But if you're just some schmuck, you get 10 minutes, and there's no way to buy up for more. So they've shut the fire hose down. They're not allowing people over there to go longer than 10 minutes.
So you can't even get a subscription to go longer?
No, I couldn't find nothing. What I'm suspecting has happened over there is that when Blab shut down, everyone looking for a new home, and they went over there, and these guys probably got overwhelmed with the amount of traffic come in, and they probably had to make a financial decision to shut down everyone that's coming there and using the service, but maybe they didn't have the commerce part ready. I was just kind of baffled if you're going to shut the pipe down for because I don't trust them. Now they're,
Yeah.
They did a, deal with the podcast movement folks. I mean, not podcast movement, the International Podcast Day folks, but now I got to find another alternative for us if we're going to use something. Maybe we'll only be audio only when I travel.
I just don't understand why they would just go with a 10-minute model. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me. And it's really kind of bad timing too.
You can't even test for 10 minutes. So I don't get it. I really don't. So anyway, that's what's going on with Fire Talk. So if you had a page over there and you weren't expecting to use it, people are going to get caught with their pants down. People are going to be planning on doing shows. They're going to go over there and they're going to get like 10 minutes into it, and it's going to be like, eh. And it's on their blog, but you have to dig for their blog. Their site is. So I was just surprised. It really, really was. But I didn't bring it up during the event yesterday. I didn't really want to dog on them, but a free game here today.
Yeah. Well, it can be expensive streaming video.
Yeah.
So, I can't imagine that there's shows on there that are that popular that's going to kill them, but it just depends on if they don't have a revenue model, which it sounds like they don't.
They've got a bunch of big shows over there that are using the service, but they're not. I looked at their shows and they weren't restricted to 10 minutes. So they're giving preference to big shows, and
that could be what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're trying to work out deals, but it doesn't sound like they've offered a pathway for people to submit or request to be part of the platform like that.
Right. And it still doesn't have the social engagement that Blab did. Blab did it. Yeah. They tapped into something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Fire Talk system doesn't really show you as visually how many people are actually on your stream watching. Right.
Yep.
It's kind of on a tab. I mean, I can see a number off to the right, up in the upper corner, says how many people, but you have to go over and click on the tab.
Yeah.
And it's not as useful because before I used to just click on that, each of the circle bubbles at the top and follow those people. So, that were actually joining. It was much more visual.
Yeah, it was. Hey, you want to say hello to Stormy, Rita, Nancy, all of you in the chat, in the Addy as well, that are on the live stream on Facebook. Thank you so much. I know we got some folks on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's kind of what... So, they did 30 hours, and of course, Steve and Dave looked pretty ragged at the end. That's just a butt kicker, even if you got someone to come in and help you.
Yeah. That was a lot. That's
why I don't do my 24-hour podcast anymore. It took me, 3 days to recover, and I had no one to replace. So, I got to worrying that I was going to stroke out here in the chair doing that show. I'd love to do it again, but I maybe have to find someone to, like 3 or 4 partners, do a 666. But then I want to sit here and watch the whole thing. So
exactly. You're going to be stuck staying up as it is.
Yeah.
You're a perfectionist when it comes to making sure that it goes off well if your name's on it.
Right.
So, well, I guess Spotify might be buying SoundCloud, but
This is yeah.
I see you've been tampering those expectations out there a little bit.
Well, it's a third try,
Yeah.
and they obviously want to buy it. So maybe they'll get the job done this time. I don't know, but
If the price is right, you know.
I think that was the holdup last time, and now they've gotten so much investment. Their investors are going to want like $1 billion. Look at how much cash that
Yeah.
SoundCloud has raised.
Yeah.
They're going to want a big check, and I don't know how solvent Spotify is either. You know,
Yeah.
do they
It's a
have?
tough business being in the music streaming service. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're not flush with profits. So, it's going to be a stretch for them to acquire somebody like that also has some challenges. But but I was thinking about, what a combined company like that would mean for the podcasting space. I mean, if it were to happen, um, it has some interesting impacts potentially that I'm not sure that we've seen before.
Well, given Spotify's record, I'm not so sure that it means much at all, to be honest with you.
Well, I think what it means for me is it basically establishes the first kind of major company besides Spotify, but besides SoundCloud, to be a huge distribution platform and a huge hosting platform combined into one service. Um, yeah, I mean, because if you look at Apple and you look at Google Play, all those guys are just aggregators and on the distribution side.
Right.
But a combination between those guys creates a kind of a whole new impact on the market. They're they're huge on the distribution side, and they would be significant on the hosting side.
If they continued it.
Well, then what's the point of buying SoundCloud? Just to
Well,
buy their users?
for the music, for the music distribution.
Well, that's true. I mean, I think that SoundCloud is certainly strong with their independent music,
Yeah. Well, that's
and
what
that's
95% of their site is.
yeah, and that's what probably Spotify is a little short on, um, because they have a lot of major music label deals,
Yep.
but the the up and coming artists may show up on SoundCloud first.
Do you think
Uh,
that here's some speculation. Do you think if they buy SoundCloud, do they keep the podcast portion of the site?
oh, definitely. I mean, both of those companies are moving forward with podcasting. I mean,
Well, you sure couldn't. You
SoundCloud is,
sure can't tell it.
no, you can't, but if you talk to them, like I know both of us are, but it's, I'm not going to say anything more than that, but that's, it's, that they are doing stuff, and there's people out there
Slow.
getting distribution.
Slow.
It is slow.
It doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't really mean nothing for the average podcaster.
At this point, you're right.
Yeah.
And not every podcaster is getting in
Right.
currently.
Yeah.
So that's
Majority are not.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And yeah, I guess I have to be careful here, but,
We'll see if they open it up. They open it up good, but I don't. I just. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. They're not making a dent, not even a dent in the percentage of podcast listens. So
yeah. And I think that there is a danger that if they don't have a more significant impact, that their commitment to it may wane. So there is some danger there.
you got to put people against the issue too. You just can't have a tiny micro team, you know, fighting the
Yeah.
internal battles like you had to fight it like Microsoft. That's what that really is. They've got a small team and
Yeah, I know what it's like to be the only podcast guy on a music team. Yeah.
yeah. So
So, and I know that these teams, Google and Spotify are bigger than just one guy,
right.
like I like I was at Microsoft. But uh, yeah, I mean, I think that they're trying to learn what the right thing to do is.
Mm-hmm.
The there's also turnover in people working um, in those areas
Right.
too at those companies.
Yeah.
People typically at those bigger type companies move around a lot. I know I was under a lot of pressure at Microsoft to I was actually offered at one point to be in charge of international music for Xbox. Um, and I was like, what?
Oh, they're move laterally within the company to get experience, right?
Yeah, they want to have their employees kind of have a diverse background of experience. And in a management role, you have to kind of spread your wings around
Hmm.
and and establish deeper relationships, and also be flexible enough in a ambiguous work environment is the term. So they want to have staff that is like a Swiss Army knife, right?
Right.
That can have skills. I mean, like I also worked on the Xbox and the Zune TV store for a while too. I kind of did that with the podcast area. So you kind of these guys at these companies tend to kind of move around, and that's recently happened at Spotify. So one of the main people there left to go off and do something else. So
The challenge with that is that, as you well know, you almost have to be ingrained, and it takes some time to learn the space and
yeah,
everything that goes with that. So
well, and the the fallout of that is that you have very surface level experience and exposure to what you're
right,
doing, and
right.
that's exactly what you're saying there is, and that was my concern too. I told my manager at Microsoft, I go, you've got to be kidding. I mean, you're going to put me in charge of, or you would want to put me in charge of international music. I say, well, I appreciate that.
Yep.
But it's probably not the best use of my skill set at this point, and I'm not sure that I want my career to be around music from here on out. So,
Well,
you know,
if they don't get it SoundCloud bought this go round, I think SoundCloud's in trouble. I think they will be. We'll see. They keep getting influx of money. That's the only thing that's keeping them going there, because they burning so much cash.
yeah.
So I know they offered their premium service, which maybe will help them on the revenue side.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens with it. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Well, SoundCloud is certainly making a dent on. I mean, I see a lot of SoundCloud podcast feeds, a lot of new ones showing up. I'm sure you're probably noticing the same
Yeah,
thing. I mean,
I see a few here and there.
they're they're still picking up new podcasters at a pretty good clip.
So one thing
Uh,
I found that was funny, though, is something that I saw that was related to that topic. Are you familiar with Wix, WIX?
yeah.
It's a
Yep.
blogging platform, right?
Yep.
So, I need to turn this on so I can show the audience. So here you've got a blogging platform, right? You're trying to compete with WordPress.
Yeah.
And let's see, do I have the right? I got to load the page on another browser. Hang on, I'm going to show you this. So Wix launched a Wix podcast.
Yeah, it's called Who What Wix.
Who What Wix. So you've got a
That's hard to
blogging
say.
platform. Let me show you. This is hilarious. So you've got a blogging platform. It says, "Oh, listen now." But I scroll down the page,
Yeah.
and who are they using for their RSS feed in their player? SoundCloud. I just like, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh yeah.
Colossal mistake. If you're going to be a blogging platform in this day and age, and you have to resort to use SoundCloud for your player and RSS
It's
feed,
easier. I mean, it's easier, Todd, and I guess
no,
SoundCloud's cool.
no. They're a content management system, Rob.
I know, Todd. Not everybody's as talented as you are at
No,
doing stuff.
no. I'm just like, why? If I was, there would be no way in God's green earth that I would have ever allowed a podcast to start on my content management publishing platform that I didn't have my own RSS feed and my own player It's just like saying, we don't support podcasting. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, that's true. They they figure why reinvent the wheel, right?
Oh my God. So a diversification of brand. Oh, let me go over to SoundCloud to listen to the Wix podcast.
Yeah, well, yeah, not
Instead of
surprised.
staying on the Wix website and listening to the Wix podcast, I'm going to go to SoundCloud to listen to the Wix pod. Makes no sense to me.
Okay, at the bottom, they are linking to iTunes, Google
Oh, of
Play,
course, SoundCloud
SoundCloud,
and
and Stitcher.
Stitcher, yeah, which they should, you know.
Sure,
But
sure, sure.
I would never, I not with my own company's platform would I. I hope they're listening. You guys are, you're just telling podcasters we don't support podcasting. You have to go use another service to do podcasting.
Yeah. Well, obviously, they don't really care.
They don't care. So, okay, go ahead and if you're trying to make this help build your brand with by doing a podcast and trying to, it doesn't to me make a lot of sense, but I'm not the guy running the show over there. I think it was a big marketing snafu. I just my mouth dropped open. I couldn't believe it. What?
Todd.
Well, really? It'd be like, okay, Rob, it would be like you talking about Spreaker and then using SoundCloud for your hosting platform. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's true.
Come on.
Yeah. Hey Todd, it's podcast cruise time. So you gonna go on the cruise?
Are you?
No, I don't have time to go on a cruise. Yeah.
No. No cruise for me. I don't need to
Podcast cruise 2017.
I don't need to
Go.
be part of a tribe or a mastermind or be uh, get the hype. I
2 full days of elite level training and masterminding.
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 That
There's
immediately
a new one for you.
when they say the word mastermind, that means reach into your pocket and pull out $1,000 bill and hand it over. That's what mastermind means. Give me
Yeah.
your money.
Yeah.
With that,
Well, I don't know. I mean, it says here podcast crew 2000 has yet to be reveal or has yet to reveal the complete speaker lineup. They have, however, noted that the organizers, Jared Easley, is one of the co-founders of Podcast Movement, and Dan Frank. So somehow those two
oh,
guys are involved in this.
so this is no longer JLD's thing.
Doesn't sound like it.
Oh, that's
Let's see
interesting.
here. It departs out of Fort Lauderdale, which is a fairly common departure
Right.
location.
I thought this was a on
Well,
fire
yeah, I know
thing.
that Cliff Ravenscraft and those guys have done these things before.
Yeah. So well, I might have to reevaluate because Jared and Dan do pretty good stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, both Jared and Dan, I guess, are the organizers
Huh.
of it.
I still don't like the word mastermind. I hate that word.
Yeah. Well, it's just one little word in one of their bullets.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a mastermind course.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Let's see what the cost is. Conference plus interior stateroom is $1,100. You're right; it was $1,000 bill. But you are getting
Yeah. Well.
you're getting a cruise too,
Yeah. And
which
in a normal conference, it's going to run you $500-600.
so
Is the cruise included for $1,000?
yeah, it's 1146
Oh, that's not a bad deal.
double double occupancy.
Yeah.
2 full conference days. Participate in all keynote speeches, panel discussions, small group roundtables, 5-night Caribbean cruise. All food and most non-alcoholic drinks are on board. Unlimited internet access for 2 devices, and an interior stateroom accommodations. But if you want to get, like a balcony stateroom, that's
That,
$1,429.
that's actually 5 days for $1,100.
Yeah, and then it's $11.99. It looks like for uh, to ocean view stateroom
Huh.
accommodations. So it's actually
That's
Uh,
not a bad deal.
no, I think
I
it's a
never
good deal.
thought any cruises are like typically 1,500 bucks anyway. Huh.
Well, that's pretty close to that.
Yeah.
So they must have gotten a good deal on it,
Yeah.
and they're just throwing the conference in. It looks like that they do have add-ons. I guess you can get a family balcony stateroom. You can get ocean
That's
families.
probably
So I
per
guess
person too, isn't it? Yeah. So
it probably is.
if you
Yeah,
take your wife or your significant other, your girlfriend, boyfriend, it's
yeah,
yeah. So it's not bad. Hmm.
yeah. I mean, it can support up to two people.
For some
I
reason,
guess.
I thought that was JLD's deal.
Well, no, I think that those guys have done that before, but
Oh,
this
okay.
this
This
looks
one
like
is
something
not.
new.
Okay. Wow, I was
So
mistaken. That's why I guess I maybe didn't pay any attention to it.
it's February 10th
Uh huh.
is when it starts, as far as arriving in Fort Lauderdale, and ends on February 16th.
Hmm.
So
Right before Podfest.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So two big events right there, back to back. No, I don't have time to go on a cruise. I don't have. I
Well,
can't.
it's the Now Hear This conference, right? Yeah,
Huh.
is what you're talking about for midroll or
No. No.
or Podfest? Which Podfest are you
That's
talking
the
about?
one in Orlando,
Oh, Orlando. Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then
Yeah, I may be going down to that.
yeah, I'll be there. And then I'm not going to proclaim though. One of the other team members is taking that event for us.
Yeah, I haven't decided if I'm going to that. But it is back to back with
Yeah. 2 day separation.
yeah. So it probably I would wind up doing both if I headed down there for either of them,
Right.
because I could just stay and get both conferences.
But well, that's probably not a bad deal for I think the maybe probably part of the reason they have announced the speakers is that it depends on how many people they get to register. If they're I'm sure they're going to have to pay the speakers to attend. I don't know if that's the deal. Maybe you have to sign up and maybe they pick the speakers from the people that I don't know how they're doing that. That's got to be a interesting because if you're going to do 2 days of intense stuff, you probably going to have 4 or 5 people be the trainers.
Well, unless Jer and Dan are going to do it,
Yeah,
I don't know.
maybe. One thing that I actually gave Mike Dell an assignment. He's working on an agenda. We're going to do a full podcast 101. We've already got the podcast manual over at Blueberry, and but everyone, not a lot of people like to read. So we're going to do a full podcast 101 series, non-commercial, completely educational, basically, from start to finish type of a series. Because what we're finding is we keep getting um, a large number of support tickets from people. They're saying, "Well, I've been told to do it this way," and there's good and bad advice out there. So I figured, well, let's nip some of this in the bud and have our own stack. I don't know how long it's going to take us to get it done. Probably a couple of months to get it all recorded, but
Hmm.
um, there's a lot of information out there now, and some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it costs money, and we're just gonna do a full series and spend a lot of time on it and make it so that it's free, and at least give a when someone comes to us and says, "Well, we were told by so and so," and then I say, "Well, why don't you listen to this 10-minute segment, find out why maybe that wasn't such a good idea." So
So it would be a kind of a pre-produced
y-
thing that you're doing.
yeah, it'll be an educational series, a
Okay.
podcast 101 educational series.
So would
And
it be video or audio
yeah,
or
video,
video?
video, and then make the segments short, short and sweet, 10 minutes in and out. 'Cause that's about
Yeah, I
all. But
saw that. Yeah, I saw that Lipson celebrated International Podcast Day by doing their own online conference
well, that's too bad that
yesterday.
they did their own thing
Yeah, yeah.
instead
Well,
of participating with the official group. But that's I guess they figured they could get more bang that way.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm kind of curious what kind of attendance they had.
It sounded like they went from like 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time yesterday to around 7 ish. So it was an all day thing.
Right. Hmm. I know that I saw when Dave Jackson did his thing, and he that's kind of funny because Dave did a segment on Podcast Movement as well. Not, geez, Podcast Movement
Uh,
on International
yeah, on
Podcast
the
Day.
live stream.
Yeah, and he was in a hotel, so it must be he was in Pittsburgh for their event.
Yeah, they probably did it in one place and just set up some cameras and
Because
yeah,
you look at some of the team members don't have good internet service, so they had to come probably where there was good internet service, so they could guarantee a good connection.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
You're right. I mean, it's not always reliable. A few of the team members. You're right.
Yeah, I think Elsie has where she lives. She doesn't get good service.
Yeah, she's been on this show before, and it seemed like she had pretty good internet connectivity for that
Yeah,
time. But I guess it's up and down for her.
yeah. She has to tell the kids like stay off the internet or.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was an announcement by iHeart. They partnered with Ad Age, and they're going to do an industry podcast. So they're going to create a podcast called Tagline. Twice a month podcast will focus on the advertising, marketing, communication industries with experts giving inside look at their work. iHeart Radio will produce the show, which debuts in November on the digital music platform and on the Ad Age website. So it is. These guys are starting to try to exert their influence, aren't they?
Well, so it's not necessarily a podcast about um, podcast advertising. I
They got to
don't
be
think.
everything,
Yeah, it's
everything advertising.
just online advertising in general,
Yeah.
especially if it's done with Ad Age. It's going to be a lot more um, general topic.
Yep. So we'll see
But
where this leads. I'll probably subscribe to it and see what they have to say.
yeah, I don't know if we talked about this, but Starbucks is now podcasting.
Yeah,
I don't know if you.
that's brand new. I wasn't aware of
Yeah,
that. And they're doing
yeah.
a
Actually, I
branded. Go ahead.
the the executive producer of that series was in Seattle, and I met up with her and talked about the podcasting space, and she's it was with Howard Schultz, and they actually they may be doing more,
Hmm.
is what I gathered from my conversation. I had a beer, or you know, talking about podcasting. She's a producer from the East Coast
Right.
that flew out specifically to manage this series. It's only about 10 episodes, so I talked to her about that, and she's gonna try and get them to extend it and do more.
Hmm. There was a podcasting conference down in Australia called Ozpod, and happened just I think it was going on during. Well, it was on the 30th, so that would have been Thursday our time. And they released some information out of Australia from some survey results. They had 1,100 folks respond to a ABC audience insight survey, and I guess that's ABC Australia. Um, and I'm not familiar with how their networks work down there. I'm definitely not. I don't think it's affiliated with the ABC network here in the United States. But their research says, at least down in Australia, on average, podcast audience listen to 5.5 podcasts per week. An average of 80% of podcast audiences listen to the whole way through. Evening is the most common time to listen to podcasts, with 47% of podcasters listen in the last week, listen in the evening. That's
Huh.
interesting.
I wouldn't think that.
Me neither. 44% listen in the afternoons.
Hmm.
Smartphone is the preferred device to listen to podcasters. 1 in 2 respondents, rising to 70% among 14 to 34-year-olds. The majority of respondents have been listening to podcasts more than 3 years. Home is where the place where podcasting happens the most, with 76% of respondents listening there within the past month. That's a little different. Trailing
That
new
is.
trialing new podcast occurs regularly, with 1 in 3 listening to a new podcast in the past week. That's huge. And 1 in 2 respondents indicated they discovered new podcasts via word of mouth recommendations. No surprise there.
Nope.
Um, what else?
Those are interesting um, numbers. I know that there's been a lot of talk in the radio side that people have fewer AM FM radios in the home here in the U.S.
Right.
Um, but I'm not sure that those are being replaced by internet radios um, at a very high clip here in the U.S. Um, that's an interesting trend down there. So people are using their iPhones or whatever probably to connect to Bluetooth devices, is my guess.
Right. One thing that I've don't see in this, and this is something that I talked about yesterday at International Podcast Day down in Australia. They have what I would classify as the world's largest LGBTQ podcast network. Joy FM um, is a terrestrial radio network in Australia, and their programming is completely LGBTQ, and they have over 100 shows specifically in that particular genre of content. And I don't see that they were included at all. And they've been podcasting a long time down there, and I don't think a lot of people even know that. Maybe people in Australia do, but they've got a huge reach.
Hmm. Interesting.
Rob, you're gonna
Yeah.
have to cover for me for a second. I got a window I gotta close. The wind's blowing hard.
Okay.
Sorry. Let me switch to you.
Okay. Yeah. On some other news, and I'm sure Todd will come back and comment on this too. I guess there's a conference in support of World of Warcraft called World of Podcasts. I guess it takes place at BlitzCon, and this is happening. I guess it's the fourth annual event. It's called the World of Podcasts. The event takes place in Anaheim at the Anaheim Hilton, which is kind of ironic because there's two events that are happening in Anaheim around podcasting. Podcasting is or Anaheim is becoming a little bit of a conference mecca for podcasting. There's the Now Hear This event that's being put on by Midroll. It's happening here in November, but this World of Podcasts off of the BlitzCon event is actually November 4th and 5th. But I guess the World of Podcasting event actually takes place on November 3rd, so it looks like it's an event just prior to the BlitzCon event that's happening.
What day was the mid-roll event? What's that going? When's that going down?
The mid-roll event is, I can look that up here really quick. Here, let me do that. And
Because
yeah, I got a invitation to go down to that.
yeah, I did
just
too, but I think I've got
just
a
last week.
I think I've got a conflict, sadly,
Yeah, I think I do too. So
and I would have liked to have gone.
There's going to be a lot of huge podcasts at that event.
Yeah, I think it's the
I
week of.
believe it is. Let me pull up my calendar here. It is October 26th and 28th, so it's the end of this month.
Oh, let me look at the calendar. Actually might. I might be able to go. Gotta double check. I thought it was November, so maybe I am good. I think I got. Wouldn't he want his RSVP by next week or something? Didn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Rob. Yeah.
Yeah. So I might be able to squeeze that in. I have to give that some more consideration.
So it's in Anaheim. Tickets are a little expensive, but so it looks like it's going to have, I guess, Mark Maron and let's see, I'm looking up some of the shows that are in here.
There was a comment in the chat room. Rick's voice says, "So you have to be trained to officially be called a podcaster." No, not at all. But what
Nope.
you have, Rick, is you have non-technical, huge. I mean, 90% of the people in the podcast space today are absolutely non-technical, and they require an immense amount of hand-holding to get up and get running. So a lot of them are paying for podcasting courses that have been, some of them are good, some of them aren't so good, and some of them put out, you know, information that is, for a better word, um,
Ill
agenda.
advised.
It's agendaized
Yeah, or ill advised
or
might be another.
ill-advised. Yeah. So,
Yes.
no, you don't. You don't have to take a class to be a podcaster, but a huge number of folks are. It's just it's a cottage industry with everyone having launch strategies, and much of it, that those launch strategies are also ill advised. Like, someone said, yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I'm ready to launch my podcast yet. I've got 18 episodes recorded, and I'm like, okay,
Only 18 episodes,
only
Todd.
18 episodes recorded. Yeah, so.
And it's been how long since you put anything out?
Or actually, I
Yeah.
had put nothing out yet. So,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Have you actually launched it, or you just like recording and are so scared to put them out because you don't know how good it is?
yeah. But,
Which is a common thing that happens out there.
right.
People are like, I don't know if it's good enough. I keep trying and it gets better.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. There's nothing been hijacked. It's just people are they just are some many, some just go and get up and go. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of timid people out there that are, and they're getting fed this, launch advice, trying to get into new and noteworthy and all these things that are really quite pointless, except for an ego standpoint. And
Yeah.
that's what really new and noteworthy it's all about is ego. It really does add no listener value to your show,
Yeah.
or very little, unless you become like super featured. Then that's got some value. If you're a featured show, that'll give you a bump. But if you're just new and noteworthy, yeah.
Yeah. You know what's really really interesting? I'm looking at the Now Hear This website. It's at nowhearthisfest.com.
Mm-hmm.
If you go there, they're actually doing 30 live podcast recordings in 3 days um, that are kind of open for people to attend physically. And on one day, on Saturday, October 29th,
Mm-hmm.
they, they, they're actually doing most of the shows. Let me see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 22 shows that they're doing live all in
Mm.
one day. So they must be doing it in a lot of conference rooms
Right.
at the Anaheim hotel. So there's 22 rooms that they're going to cycle through in one day
Rick
for
said.
shows.
Rick says, I hear that, Todd. I think there are too many experts taking people's money on the promise that they'll be podcasters. Oh, there's been a lot of that going on for a long time.
Yeah.
And then Matt says, School of Podcasting, a good show to listen to different topics and such. But also remember, School of Podcasting is also a Libsyn employee. So there's, you have to read. And I'm not saying that Dave is, Dave does a nice job, but I'm a Blueberry employee. So Rob's a speaker employee. So we all
Yeah.
have agendas.
Well, Dave, I think is masterful at balancing his community
Yeah.
expectations
Yeah.
with his employment
Yeah.
expectations.
We
So
all
he
have,
does a good job with that.
we all have to be careful of it.
Yeah. But it looks like that this Now Hear This event is being held at a Marriott. So I'm looking at a picture of it, and I don't know that we know where Podcast Movement's going to be. Is it? Have you heard? Is it the Hilton, Marriott? I I don't know.
Yeah.
But this certainly looks like a nice place.
In going back to what we are just talking about, Rob, yeah, every doesn't matter who you are. There's people always have agendas in the podcasting space. And when you're talking money, there's always obscure agendas, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Hey, I've been talking with the folks from the NAB.
Oh,
Uh, yeah, I know that Rob Walsh and I have been talking to the folks at the National Association of Broadcasters conference, their NAB show that they do every year in Vegas.
mm-hmm.
I was down there last year, and so was Rob, and I did three podcasting panels down at the NAB event last year, and then this year I keep hearing from the fellow that's organizing it down there that there's going to be a complete podcasting track that's going to be kind of an offshoot of the radio conference
Huh.
that usually happens as part of the NAB event. So we should hear about this probably in the next couple weeks, whether or not they're going to have a podcasting track.
They've just opened up submissions for topics for sessions too.
Yeah, but I'm talking
Straight with the
specifically
guy.
to the guy that's actually organizing it and actually doing the NAB podcast.
Uh huh.
So he's the one that's kind of being that voice of reason with those folks
Yep.
to actually get that going. I mean, there certainly was a lot of people from the radio side that attended the panel that I did last year with Rob McCracken and Rob Walsh. So, so hopefully at least we can get like maybe a half day or something like that of a particular track, so we can have multiple sessions on various topics, podcast monetization, maybe how to market your podcast, how to transition your radio station into doing more podcasting, and
That can,
those kind of things. I mean, uh, we tried to cover all that in one like 45-minute session, and it's
right.
probably not the kind of depth that you can get into to cover all that stuff.
Are they considering having a dedicated area? Did that
I don't know
topic
about
come up?
that. I'm not sure about that. I think that would be that may be a separate conversation with the NAB folks because then that's the exhibition side. Um, I don't have any contacts over there, but it's actually probably a good question. I can post that, or I can make that ask of Josh just to see if there's any kind
Because
of
there's really,
aggregation that can happen.
yeah, there's been no place to anchor, a bunch of companies together. Because it just doesn't make any sense to go there and be a lone ranger. If
Well,
they had a dedicated area for us, where we, even if it was just kiosk, where 4 or 5 of us could come in.
well,
Um,
if yeah, I mean, if we could be clustered kind of close to where all the microphones are, and maybe mixers and
but
that
yeah,
kind of
if
stuff.
they put us in the audio section, but it's yeah, unless it'd be nice if they made us a tiny pavilion, and I don't know, it's just something maybe we can bring up to them again. I'd
Yeah,
pursue going if they had something where I knew, like if I knew you guys and Libsyn, and I knew 3 or 4 other companies were going to be there, we'd go. But if you're just a lone ranger, it's
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 kind of tough. Yeah.
yeah, you got to give people a destination to go to talk to multiple companies at once.
Well, and that's such a massive event too. I know,
It's it's huge.
when we both did that with the New Media Expo, it was a pain in the ass. I mean, it was really a difficult exhibition.
Yeah, any of those big shows are like that, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not doing live at CES this year. It's just the logistics are incredible.
Yeah, they're very, very, very demanding.
Yeah.
So
Let's see here. What else?
inexpensive.
Well, yeah, it's just for the booth alone, it's $5,000-6,000 by the time you get down with electricity, internet, and everything else.
Oh yeah, at least yeah.
Yeah.
Um, DC Podfest is coming up too.
Yeah, I went to that last year.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that's coming up November 4th and 5th. I've been talking to those folks too. But
So the event last year, I think there was about 100 people at the event. One day, it was a one-day shot. of sessions, and they used the people from the DC area to, fill the sessions. So it wasn't bad. Good networking opportunity if you're in the DC area, if you're a podcaster, if you can drive and support it. It'd probably be well worth attending. They did a nice venue too.
Hey, Todd, do you have any interest in? And I know that I don't know that any podcasting companies have actually participated in the social media marketing world event.
You want to talk expensive?
I know. No, totally.
That event is insane.
Yeah, that one's March 22nd through the 24th next year down in San Diego. Yeah,
It's probably 20 grand minimum, 20 or $25,000 to participate in that event.
crazy.
They don't have exhibitors.
Oh, they don't.
No, in the past they've had like you're actually to be able to attend as a company and have a table, you have to almost be a sponsor. So, it was I mean, it was insane how much they were charging for um no, we won't be going.
Yeah, I guess it's like $900 to get a ticket.
Yeah, 900 to 1100 bucks or something like that, right?
Yeah,
And so it's expensive for attendees as well. It's a well attended event, don't get me wrong,
yeah. And
but
there's a significant number of podcasters that get involved in that event
yeah,
too. I know,
yeah,
and I know that they've held podcasting sessions in the past
yep.
down there. I don't know if they're still doing that much of that.
It's 20 it's just you probably get your money's worth out of it, but for 20 or $25,000, I can go to almost 3 events for that much money. So um
Well, there must be a lot of money flowing around those online marketing folks.
it's got to
Todd,
be.
I think we're in the wrong business.
We're definitely in the wrong business. Well, it's but social media is huge, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not surprising. And it's
No,
interesting they hold that event. Is it same time as NAB or butting right up against NAB?
it is. Well, it's March 22nd through the 24th, the social media marketing world. So
And
I
NAB
don't think
too?
it's butting
No,
up against anybody.
no, it isn't. It used to. So this year it's April 22 to 27 is NAB.
Yeah. So it would be right. Yeah. The NAB is April 22 to 27. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the exhibits this year are 24 to 27, which is weird because it's going to close on a Saturday. That's the same thing with CES this year. The CES dates are really odd, and it's because of the calendar shift. The CES 2017 is, let me see if I can bring up the dates. I booked my airline tickets. It's January 5th to the 8th. So if you look at the calendar, January 5th, I think, is a Thursday. Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the CES show this year. So Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's just odd,
Yeah.
you know. But I
Well, so you want to talk about something else new that's going on
oh yeah,
around
we can talk.
in home listening to
Yeah,
podcasts?
we can talk about this new device being announced tomorrow
Yeah.
or Monday or maybe
Yeah, I
being
think it's
announced.
yeah, it's the new Google Home device. It's being described as an Amazon Echo killer. It's gonna Google's gonna take down the Amazon Echo,
Oh, the
take them down, and then punch them in the head.
Amazon's got a head start. We'll see.
Yeah. So when is a device like this coming from Apple?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I'm surprised there isn't one already.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's speculated it's being announced. That it's not 100% that it is.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. It's people are expecting it to be announced. It's basically doing taking that voice activation technology that that people are using on Android and creating little devices and creating a little platform that can integrate into all sorts of stuff. But I also did see that Google was blocking the the ability for the Amazon Echo and Alexa platform to be integrated in with their other devices or something like that. There's
Hmm.
some competitive thing going on there.
Well, it's you know, these companies have figured out a little bit too late that Alexa has become a pretty popular device.
Oh yeah,
So
definitely.
I don't know. It'll be curious to see. I'm going to buy one if it's available. Then we'll do a A/B comparison, see how it works.
Yeah, it says Amazon hasn't released official sales numbers for the Echo yet, but analysts peg the number of Echoes sold north of 3 million, and that Amazon has plans to sell as many 10 million Echo devices this coming year.
So with Google's reach and Google's power, what do you think their potential market is? Will they outsell Amazon?
I think it's possible. It just depends on whether or not the audio capabilities of the Google device are as good. I have a hard time thinking that they would be as good because the Echo is connected to a huge online store.
Well,
So
if you look at the Echo, it's tied to Prime, and with Prime,
that's right.
you get, if you have a Fire Stick and you have Amazon Echo, you've got it covered. You've got movies, you've got audio, you've got, it's tied into a huge ecosystem already. So what are we
And
gonna
you
do?
can order toilet paper too, Todd.
Right. So the question then is, if Google releases a box, it's going to be tied to what? Google Play. Okay.
Yeah,
w-
that's right.
I guess
So
that's it, right? Who uses Google Play?
yeah, not that many people yet, right?
Right. It's nuts. I'm on Amazon. I'm looking at movies and stuff, almost every day. I'm not doing that with Google Play. So I guess we'll see. But it will tie to
So
the Android device, so that will be an advantage.
yeah, so probably Alexa is going to struggle on any kind of Android device, I'm sure. There's probably not. They're going to build in some way to limit its functionality or something.
Right.
Uh, but uh, but I did hear a little bird rumor that Google may be actually eventually putting out their reporting APIs.
Oh,
So it's coming. It's coming.
wow, that's a good rumor. I hadn't heard that one.
Well, they've been talking about it for a long time. It isn't like it's been
Right,
something
right.
that's been
We've been waiting,
top secret.
but we thought
Uh,
that they said they were going to do it. Then really we haven't heard too much, and I just wondered if they thought, well, maybe we won't do this.
I don't know.
But
They
if they do,
they keep
that's
saying that it's coming.
well, good.
It's coming soon. I just maybe they're just kicking my can down the road.
Yeah, I am hoping that they do because that'll get them into the ecosystem, and we'll be able to really tell what because their system is just kind of jacked. Their stat system is not that impressive. It
Yeah.
doesn't give you a lot of information. But if we can pull that information out and put it in a stack, it'll be awesome.
Well, it depends on what they're going to give you in that API too.
Yeah.
It may not be that complete.
Well, it's not,
Um,
if we can just get play data, that'll be fine.
yeah. Yeah. So I guess the Google Home product is powered by what's called Google. It's called Google Assistant.
Hmm.
I hadn't heard that name before. I always just called it the Google Audio um, uh, kind of platform. I didn't really have a name to call it.
Right.
But I guess it's called Google Assistant. It's a smart, personalized assistant in the cloud that can respond to questions and commands, making use of the data Google has about its users. Right. Um, and
Big
then
brother.
Google Home also integrates with Google Cast, the same technology that powers Google's popular Chromecast streaming adapter. So they're making a connection between the
Right.
Chromecast store. I don't see them saying anything specific about Google Play,
Well, Chromecast ties. I think it ties back to Google Play too.
does it? I'm
Yeah, I've
just
got
curious.
one. I haven't used it in a while. I'm gonna have to go because it was slim pickings. There wasn't a lot on the Chromecast. I'm gonna have to go and look. Of course, they're announcing their own operating system too, Andromeda.
Yeah,
So they're gonna have their own operating system, which is just basically Google Chrome, is what it is. It's an
yeah,
operating system surrounding a browser. So we will. I guess we're just gonna have to see what.
yeah.
Uh,
So it does say here also that the audio capability in the Google Home will include access to streaming apps like Spotify, TuneIn, Pandora, NPR One, SoundCloud, and more.
hmm.
So I'm not sure what the more is, but still didn't say anything about Google Play.
Well, we'll see how it ties in because I can't imagine that it wouldn't.
I can't imagine either. That would make no sense to me.
Right.
But Spotify, TuneIn, both of those guys have some podcasts. Whether or not those podcasts are actually being made available to Google Home is another question.
Well, TuneIn is what's powering currently Alexa's or
Yeah.
Amazon Echo's podcast play platform.
Yep.
So, you'd say this, that for those of you that don't know the keywords to say to Alexa, what you tell Alexa is, Alexa, play the latest edition of, and then use the show name. And generally, if you're in TuneIn, that latest episode will play in Alexa.
Yeah. So,
It's good. It's more just more places to get content. I think the distribution thing is
yeah.
is good. I like being the source of the distribution. So that's
Yeah.
so it's a
Well, and
it's a win-win.
and it's a it's kind of a battle for the bedroom and the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
In the family room. Um, I guess Amazon struck a deal with Sonos to leverage the Echo for or actually it's probably incorrect. It should be Alexa for voice control um, in their Sonos speaker system. So
But you can't talk to the Sonos speaker system. It's still tied to the the uh the app, basically
okay,
to the Dot or the Alexa or to the full size one.
so it must work through the Echo to control the playback through the
Yeah,
Sonos.
I have Sonos and I'll have to look, but the speakers aren't capable of listening. So I'll go
Not
back and
yet.
test. Yeah, maybe new sales when you can't put a microphone. Well, I guess you could, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll have to go. I'll do some testing here. But Apple's selling Sonos now on in the Apple stores too because of the Bluetooth capability, and that's a integration part. So I really do like the Sonos speakers. They're very expensive. And to have the full infrastructure, you got to have the little base unit that ties into your network, and I've had Sonos here for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So it says here that leaks have suggested that Google will sell this Google Home device for $130,
Hmm.
which is $50 less than the full Amazon Echo.
Yeah, if you have a speaker in your bedroom or anything, you just buy the Dot. You buy the little one. You don't need the full big bass unit. We've got the full unit in the living room and then a small one in the bedroom. And I travel with the portable one. They've got a battery powered one. I take that with me on any travel I go to.
Yeah. So are you planning on going to any Rain Summit conferences anytime soon?
Haven't been invited, and I probably will go to the NEB one, but I
Yeah. Yeah. That's the one I was planning on going to too. Is the one that's just before NAB.
yeah, I you know I don't think I'll go to any of the other ones at this point.
Yeah.
So haven't been invited to speak. Of course, I haven't sponsored either. So
Are you implying something, Todd,
no,
when you say
no,
that?
no, not at all, not at all.
Yeah. Nope. Not implying anything. Um, then there's the Worldwide Radio Summit. Are you engaged with that next year?
I haven't been asked to speak yet, so if they ask
Yeah.
me to speak, I'll go. I probably will not attend if not asked to speak.
Yeah.
Um, the networking at that event was good old boys were hanging out with their friends.
It's old school radios. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and very hard to break into that group from a networking standpoint.
Yeah.
So, it's
Podcasting is just not that well respected.
no, they don't. They were out. The room had 500 people in it when they were talking radio topics, and then when podcasting topic came in, there was 100 people. 400 people went out and had cocktails.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
So, and it's a real LA West Coast set. Well, there was people from really. I met someone from Guam I knew. So people come from all over for that event. So it's well attended by
Oh yeah.
by radio, but it's definitely radio centric.
Yeah. Which radio's still a powerful business out there.
Yeah.
That's not changing very fast.
Rob, if I go to all these conferences, there'll be no time to actually work.
You don't really want to work, Todd.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two. You know how it is. You lose a week when you go to any of these events. It's
Yeah,
just you get sucked in.
that's true. Yeah, I'd say that my calendar for 2017 is a lot lighter on conferences than it was last year.
Hmm.
It
I-
just there was just a flurry. It was like the the Nielsen conference, the Dash conference went on last year. Those are in the New Media Expo. Those are all dead. So
oh, those two conferences are dead. The Dash conference is dead.
yeah, it's
Wow,
not it's not going to happen again.
that's telling, isn't it?
No, I talked to the Jacobs brothers about it, and they told me that whole thing has kind of run its course.
Hmm.
Um, that the in car dash stuff is happening. It's rolling out. The whole kind of uniqueness of it, and something that's new is kind of disappearing. So
And the
it's start.
Nielsen's not doing anything.
I think that they probably are still going to have their partner conference, but there's probably not a lot of need for them to have a big podcasting panel again.
They are still trying to come up with some sort of API that they can implement. They're not having a lot of luck, are they?
I don't know. I haven't really talked to Rob from Nielsen about the API, or the SDK. Sorry, um, but I know that they're planning on doing a big rollout in 2017 of this thing.
Hmm.
I'm just not sure. I think they're really looking to work at the client end, not at the server end, and that may be a hard road for them to go down.
Well, they haven't reached out to us, that's for sure.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's what they're going to want to do is embed their little hooks into a bunch of embeddable web players and apps.
well, they're probably gonna have to roll their own then. If they really want to do that, they're gonna have to roll their own players unless they start talking to people because they haven't. It's the same old story with them.
Yeah, and it's going to be hard because of Apple. It's
Oh
just
yeah. Well,
they're they're going to be missing 60-70% of the data.
so the real question is Apple ever gonna loosen up?
No.
And I had some hope with this Podcast Connect's website that they would, that they would start, making available some information there. But maybe I'm still hopeful they might. But I don't think it'll be. I think you have to log in to see it. I don't think they're gonna. It'll be interesting. I don't know.
So I was thinking about this. This is to take us back a little bit to the SoundCloud and Spotify question. let's say those two do combine,
Yep.
and they do you think that that would create a platform that would be something that would inspire another big company to change its strategy?
Mm, I don't know.
Think Apple, think Google.
Maybe Google. I don't know if Apple needs to change at all.
Yeah, probably Google would be the one that I could think of.
But they've as far as I'm concerned, they've implemented podcasting correctly. It's not there's no separate app yet, which I think would be awesome, included at the OEM level. That's how they really get into play.
Yeah.
Google, if Google wants to make an impact, that's what they do. They build their own podcasting app and they force it on the OEMs. They make it a default load with Android.
Well, that's what Microsoft did, and that's what Apple's done
Yeah. So
is
if
build a default app.
yeah, if they do that, that's a game changer. But and make it easy so that there's follow some sort of give give a certain give a easy subscribe option too, like we built for the other Android apps with one click. You got to be able to make it easy for the listener to be able to subscribe. So if Google did that, I think they would see an enormous. I think we would all see an enormous impact to Android podcast listeners.
I mean, because you think about it, but both Spotify and Google are hosting all these shows.
That's true.
So it's if it's kind of a leading question, um, but if Spotify acquires or if, yeah, if Spotify acquires SoundCloud, then they're in the hosting business
Yes, they are.
in a more public way,
Yep.
not kind of caching
Well, they're
episodes
already
and
caching music and
redistributing.
stuff, so it's not
Yeah,
nothing that they're not already doing. So
it just makes me wonder if that deal happens that could force the hand with Google to say, well, we need to do the same thing.
I don't know. I don't know if Google would ever be a publishing platform. They've never done that in the past,
Mm,
have they?
I don't think there's been a medium like podcasting either that is a good analogy for that.
Right. Well, they do. Obviously YouTube is the biggest media
Yeah,
platform on the planet.
yeah, that's true.
So
So maybe there is some connection there.
yeah, potentially it could be. But then
Yeah.
again, so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Google has stepped away from RSS. So,
What does that mean? They've stepped away.
well,
Is it
they
just from Google Reader? Is that what you're
well
basing
they
that
they're
on?
not a big they're not big into RSS. What have they done with the feed burner? And they've let
Yeah.
it go into a wasteland. And anything they got rid of Reader, so they've divested of RSS a lot. So if they were going to go and be in the hosting business, that they'd have to rekindle. They can't have a be in the hosting business without RSS feeds.
Yeah. Well,
So
Todd, the future of this is APIs,
yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. Yet during a conference that Rob Walsh was at last week,
I didn't hear a thing about that. What did you hear?
basically they said that they fully support RSS. Art 19 said they fully support RSS and then don't
Oh
see
yeah.
it going away anytime soon.
Boy, that's a brain surprise.
Well, that's the first you've heard that word out of those folks' mouth.
Well, here recently
Well,
anyway, yeah. Yeah.
according to them,
Of course, I haven't
RSS
heard
doesn't
anything out of those
exist.
guys' mouth to speak of.
Yeah, you know, they don't RSS doesn't exist in their vocabulary.
Sean, come on the show and tell us,
Yeah,
what you're doing with APIs and RSS and how those two are going to work together or not.
we'll be
Because
nice.
yeah, we'll be nice and I just want to hear your thoughts and because in order for that to be something that works for the industry, we got to start talking about it. And if there's some benefit to do it, then that's great. but it's going to be a hard road, though. Honestly.
Well, I'm still sticking with the single feed, single show mentality. There's at this point there's not. Um, I know that certain companies in the podcasting space, you have a feed for every destination. That's a quagmire I don't want to get into. If people want to do it, they can, and PowerPress allows them to do it within the actual, but I think it's foolish at this point to be creating multiple feeds. We're not at that point. If we do, we can shift, but I just don't see the need at this point.
I I I think it's coming.
Well, we'll see.
That's my based on what I've heard.
Well, then what's going to happen is there's going to be, um, we're just making it harder for the content creators. These companies are going to want to, you know, force you to take advertising out of your show or whatever it may be.
Hmm.
The reasoning that forces people to have to submit a different, that's going to piss podcasters off.
Well, it's going to be different art specs, different metadata um, tags,
Like I said, that's
different.
all easily submitted within a single feed. You still don't have to
Yeah, it
break it
is.
out. Yeah.
Most of the time, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
But if
Um,
these big companies want to push their weight around a little bit, they they, they could easily make a change to expect that.
well, then adoption's slower because then everyone has to rewire, and you're relying on companies like me, like Libsyn, like the companies that are out there to retool our
Well,
platforms to support them.
Libsyn is already doing that, so
Well, the
that
problem is their feeds. They have multiple feeds, but they're exactly the same fucking thing. They're no different. They're the same feeds, just a different URL. There's nothing different with the feeds. That's the bullshit. You got 20 feeds. They're exactly the same thing in 20 separate feeds.
well, the only thing that I know is different is that feeds that like go to TuneIn are 1200 by 1200, and feeds that go to Apple are 3000 by 3000 on that cover art.
Simply covered by a tag. Not needed. You don't need 20 feeds.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not needed.
yeah.
And
I mean,
TuneIn takes the regular art too. They take 1400 by 14 or 3000 by 3000 art. You don't have to have 1200 by 1200
that's right
art.
because they realize that that's the
That's
only way
right.
they can get the content these
That's right.
days.
So you don't have to have a special feed going to TuneIn.
Yeah, that's true.
God help you if you ever have to leave and then it's an entrapment tool is what it is for a business model.
I knew you would go there, Todd.
It is. It's all it is. It's not needed. It's not.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they can say what they want, but that's the ploy. That's the business model. If I thought we needed to have separate feeds for every destination, we would have long ago implemented it.
mm-hmm. Well, yeah, because then that's what the expectations were. That's what the market expected.
Well,
The market isn't really expecting
no,
separate feeds yet.
yet. And then when they do, we can shift. But I don't think these companies are going to do it. I don't think so. You know, you got one company that's doing this, and you've got
I I I know of two that would like it. They've already expressed it.
well, haven't
So
expressed it to us. They haven't reached out to us. I got 75,000 podcasters powering
I
their
know.
podcast. So if they want it changed, have they said hello, Todd? Can you implement
No,
this?
no, it's a future thing.
well, well, they better
We're heading this direction. Of course, we heard that about APIs
yeah,
too,
they
right?
better talk. They better start talking. Come on. My email's pretty public.
Yeah, so's mine. Yeah,
I just like wow.
I'm not hard to find.
No, not at all. So
I did 3 podcasts just this last week. I'm not hard to find.
no, I did. I had an interview. I just actually released a new episode of Podcast Legends with oh my God, I'm pulling up Dave Slusher from Evil
Dave
Genius.
Slusher.
Yeah, Evil
Yeah,
Genius Chronicles.
yeah. I had Dave on the International Podcast Day stream last year.
Oh, so I also yesterday did an interview with Don and Drew.
Hmm.
Oh my God, that article, that episode, if it doesn't do 50,000, it's
Those,
it's gonna explode. It was the best interview I've ever done. They are wonderful.
yeah,
So I'll have their episode out next week. But Dave Slusher's interview is up. So I'm starting, I'm getting through the frontline folks now, and then we'll start digging a little deeper into podcasters that may not be as well known. But
yeah. Dave's got a great podcaster voice.
yeah, he does. And he goes
So
all the way back to August of 2004. So he basically started
yeah,
his podcast the same day Daily Source Code started.
yeah.
So
No, I know. I mean, he
yeah,
was actually before me. Yeah,
yeah. So he
by
was
just a couple of weeks, but yeah.
yeah. So he was real early. And then a lot of these guys that were
And
early,
he's still doing this show.
well,
That's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah. He doesn't do it as often, but
13 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was teasing him. I said, Dave, I said, I thought I was going to be able to claim the longest running podcast single show, and I said, but you've got me beat by a month and a half, and he laughed and he says, well, actually, he says I'm not the longest running. He said the longest running is the Gilmore Gang. He says they actually had a syndicated RSS feed before he did. I was like, what? So
Gilmore Gang.
Doug K was putting that show out on. Anyway,
I still watch that show.
yeah. So they were. He says they were technically first. I was like, wow. Um, so
Yeah, you should get Steve Gilmore
yeah,
on your Legends
yeah,
show.
that would be a good one to get. Because they were
Yeah,
doing a show before podcasting, but they just implemented the RSS feed. They were one of those guys that transitioned. Well, didn't
yeah,
really transition, but just added the podcasting capability.
yeah. They that show has our Robert Scoble
Yep,
on it every week. It's actually part of the TechCrunch content network.
yep. They started
So
out with Doug Kay and his
yeah,
oh man, what was the name of Doug?
Conversations Network.
Yeah, converse. And I get Doug Kay on too.
Hmm.
We
No,
talked
it'd
to
be
him.
great to get Doug on.
Yeah, he's heavy
Yes.
into photography now. That's just his main gig.
Yeah,
He's retired, but
yeah,
no, it just and what's interesting is all you're talking with Michael Butler and then talking with Dave Slusher, then talking with Don and Drew. Not a lot of people want to talk too much about what happened at Pod Show and Mevio. Yeah, there's not there's Michael Butler basically said I'll tell all when I'm on my deathbed for Pod Show Mevio.
it's all centered around Mr. Ron Bloom.
Yeah,
Mr. It's hard even to come up with a word to describe Ron Bloom.
yeah. Michael
He's
had
classic whole old Hollywood hard ass business guy.
yeah Michael had good things to say about Ron though. He said he's a wheeler and dealer. So
He is.
he had
Yeah.
he had good things to say about him. So
But I can just imagine between Adam and Ron Bloom, that was probably a dynamic relationship.
oh, I would imagine it was as well. And I know why Weiner didn't get involved. Now I'm kind of getting the clear picture here why Dave stayed clear. I think it'd have been just Dave and Adam. It may have worked, but when Ron, I think that was too much for Dave.
Yeah.
At least that's my kind of. And I think Dave has said some stuff in the past, but I just, um, you know, and I don't have any direct quotes anymore because it's been such a long time. But they're bringing up stuff that. I mean, this has been like a trip down memory lane, and for anyone that's around the space, you got to listen to the show. It's just, it's got some perspectives in there that will do people well. A lot of reminiscing. It's, maybe it's good for me. Maybe everyone else could give two shits.
Well, I think uh, pr- probably a lot of new people in the space probably don't care a lot about it. But there is a history, and a lot of the things that happen today have happened in the past. You can certainly learn from the past in this medium and apply it to the future.
Yeah,
Because a lot of things have been tried and then retried and then retried, and people are scratching their head. Well, why didn't that work? Well, it's been tried like 3 or 4 times before,
yeah.
and it didn't work 3 or 4 times ago. Now it might, because maybe the market or the situation is different now. But there's a good chance that probably not too much different now.
But
Because a
I
lot of things in podcasting really haven't changed very much.
no, no. But I'll be honest. This show surprised me. It's getting some legs. It's getting some numbers right off the bat that I haven't seen a show grow this fast since I started my Geek News Central podcast back in 2004.
That's great.
It's exploding. So, and we'll see. We'll see how it does. If I can keep the hard part is just getting people scheduled. It sucks. I feel sorry for you now, Rob. I scheduling people's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah, and frankly, I'm not even really much trying anymore with this show.
Yep.
So to schedule guests, it's probably a good idea to kind of jump back in it. But certainly, let us know what you think, if we should bring on more guests, or you just think it's fine just Todd and I talking.
I,
I know we've gotten feedback from listeners to this show that they just like they prefer you and I talking
yeah.
than having guests on that kind of disrupt that conversation.
One
It's
thing
kind of like being a fly on the wall, right?
yeah. One thing, and like today, I'm a little out of my element. My back is just freaking killing me. So I should have took some Tylenol or something before the show started. But I'm gonna hire an assistant, Rob. So maybe, and it's a personal assistant for Geek News Central and this Legends thing I'm doing. So maybe we can use that person to help us run down some people to bring on the show too as well. So,
Yeah.
but
I just need to, you know, every week I need to send out a couple of emails to and just ask.
and
I
even
just
if they
haven't
come in
been.
like the last half or something, they can, we don't have to have them at the beginning.
Well, I think we've kind of juggled that in the past too. We've wanted to maintain this back and forth conversation, because I think at times in the past we brought him in and had a guest in here for the whole time, and we were
Right.
like, get him out of here so we can talk about you know this stuff. You and I talk about it,
Right.
because it can be a little disruptive to have a guest in here between us.
Yep. Well, we
So
are at the bottom of the hour already.
okay.
And just about good time, too, because I'll be honest with you, I need to get on a hard surface. It's what it is. Since I hurt my back, if I don't get floor time, and what I mean by floor time is laying on a hard surface, I pay the price, and I haven't done that in 2 3 days, and I'm paying the price right now. So
Do you
it's
have a really good kind of lumbar support behind you there in your chair?
I do, but once I've got hardware in my back, an H brace,
Oh, oh, you
and
do.
if things get the vertebrae is fused above and below, but if stuff gets a little cockeyed there, then I just got to get on the floor, and I lay on the floor for 30 minutes, and my back straightens out, and the pain goes away. So
Ah,
it's just self-induced pain at this point. So
understand.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Doesn't sound fun to me though.
No, it's when you smash your L1 vertebrae. It's been 13 days in the hospital. I'm lucky enough to haven't even walked out of the place. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, enough about my whining. Hey, if you've got comments on today's show, it could be Todd at New Media Show. You can send an email there, or reach out on Twitter at Geek News. Of course, Rob, give them your 411.
You can send me an email, rob at Spreaker.com, or you can send it to rob at robgreenlee.com, and that's with two E's. And that's those are two great ways. If you want to send, a written comment or question or any kind of suggestion, if you think things that we can do to improve the show. And I can also be reached or watched on the podcast that I do, the Speaker Live Show at speakerliveshow.com, and that's every Wednesday. So, and then I have a website and on Twitter, all under my name. So
The stats are showing it. We're close to 5,000 of you are listening, so we definitely want to hear from you. So,
yeah, and Todd, your window is now lighting up your head.
it's making it through the slats up there
Yeah.
and getting me right there. So it used to be right here, but the Earth has shifted a little bit, so now it's in my forehead. But
Ah, the Earth. It's the
yeah,
Earth's fault.
the axis has moved. We're heading in
Yes, it
towards
has.
winter, at least
Yeah,
in
is
the.
it getting cooler there?
It doesn't change. The temperature don't change here.
It doesn't.
It's like a 6 or 7 degrees variance. It's
Well, you're close to the equator there.
yeah. So we get a little shift, 2 or 3 inches on the window.
Oh, that's it, huh? Gosh.
Not
All
up there
right.
where you are, where it's cold, where it's
Yeah,
getting cold,
it's starting to get that way now. Yeah.
and I'm sure leaves are turning in parts of the country, and yeah, I don't. The only thing I miss is about leaf raking is the smell of when you burn the leaves off. Of course, now most people don't burn them off. Most people put them in a trash can and put it out for the the green recycle. But where I grew
Yeah.
up, we burned the leaves. So
Uh,
something about burning leaves that tells you fall is here.
brings back memories. Yes.
All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week on the New Media Show. Everyone, take care. Bye bye.